This video is brought to you by Squarespace, the all-in-one platform to build a beautiful online presence and run your business. This Wednesday just past saw Apple announce the 2022 iPhones, the not surprisingly named iPhone 14s and iPhone 14 Pros. Note the plural in the name for both of those, as we now have two types of iPhone, both available in two different sizes. In a lot of ways, it makes the prospect of choosing a new iPhone a little bit easier, but there are still questions to consider if you're debating whether or not to get one for yourself. In this video, I'm going to try and help you with that decision. We'll talk about what Apple announced, discuss which iPhone 14 you should consider from all of the different options, as well as trying to answer whether an upgrade is right for you right now or whether you should hold off. Okay, let's get into it. So, we now know that we have 4 iPhones to choose from, and we can broadly break that down into 2 products, both with 2 sizes. The iPhone 14 and the iPhone 14 Pro, both available in a regular and a max configuration. It's a clever strategy by Apple. The last few years, you could argue that Apple have been testing the market in terms of phone sizes. At one end of the iPhone range, the iPhone 13 mini, and at the other end, the extremely expensive iPhone 13 Pro Max. You would think that the cost of the Pro Max would put a lot of people off, but Apple's decision to essentially discontinue the mini phone and at the same time create a cheaper Max model, the iPhone 14 Plus, shows that the opposite must have been true. People have clearly taken to owning a larger iPhone more than a small one. Previously, if you wanted the physically largest iPhone, you also had to go for the most technically capable and therefore expensive Pro model, but not anymore. Now regular iPhone purchasers can enjoy that 6.7-inch display on the iPhone 14 Plus, whilst also saving a bit of cash. So I guess the first question is, do you choose the regular iPhone 14 or the Pro iPhone 14? That's going to come down to how much you care about the features that the Pro model has that the regular doesn't. So let's break that down. There are now 2 models of iPhone 14, the iPhone 14 and the iPhone 14 Plus, with that Plus essentially being a large iPhone 14 instead of a mini one like we had last year. And while there are a few things to talk about in relation to the iPhone 14, one way to look at it is this is essentially an iPhone 13 Pro Lite. You're getting everything good about last year's iPhone 13, some of what was good about the iPhone 13 Pro, plus a few new features, although no real innovation to speak of. In fact, the easiest way to explain what you're getting in the iPhone 14 this year is probably to tell you what's different when compared to last year's 13 Pro. You've got the same A15 Bionic chip inside powering it all, so Apple essentially reusing the same chips from last year and extending their lifespan out by another year. That's no bad thing, by the way. The A15 Bionic is an outstandingly powerful chip, but it does mean that the phone that you buy this year may not be any more powerful than the phones that we bought last year, including budget devices like the 2022 iPhone SE, which also runs on an A15 Bionic. You don't get ProMotion, essentially the variable refresh rate that allows for silky smooth screen animations on your iPhone. I'm now fortunate enough to have that feature on almost all of my Apple devices, and it's one of those features that you'll really miss if you've gotten used to it and then lose it, but for many people this isn't a big deal. You're getting 2 cameras, a wide and an ultra wide, and you're getting crash detection, a new feature being rolled out across all of Apple's new iPhones and watches. Essentially, a combination of accelerometers and force detection technology can identify if you've been involved in a serious collision, the kind of crash where a car's airbag would have gone off. Your phone will immediately begin contacting the emergency services for you unless you stop it from doing so, which could be a life-saving feature in certain situations. You're going to get autofocus on the selfie camera, which honestly I didn't realize we didn't already have. And you're going to get the photonic engine, which is essentially a very Apple way of saying that improvements in both hardware and software mean that your iPhone 14 is going to be much better at taking low light photos than previous iPhones. You also get action mode in video, which I can't wait to try out. This is essentially a gimbal level of smoothness built right into your phone. Okay, so that's the 14. Let's talk about the Pros now. But before we do that, I want to take a moment to mention Squarespace, the sponsor of today's video. Whatever your reason is for needing a website, whether it's for your business, your hobby, or even your side hustle, you might think that you need to hire a professional to get a website up and running, and that couldn't be further from the truth with Squarespace. They make the entire process of configuring, launching, and managing your own website easy. Their best-in-class templates cover an enormous range of website themes and use cases, and they're unbelievably easy to customize. I mean, we're talking drag and drop, double click to edit simple here. I was able to get my template tweaked just how I like it within a matter of minutes. Not only that, every Squarespace website and online store comes with a host of integrated SEO features and useful guides to ensure you've got the best chance of visibility in the search engines. Check out squarespace.com for a free trial, and when you're ready to launch, go to squarespace.com/properhonesttech to save 10% off your first purchase of a website or domain, or use the code properhonesttech. Not entirely surprisingly, Apple saved their biggest and best for the Pro lineup of iPhones, and I have to give it to them. Their strategy of holding back the regular iPhones whilst also pushing forward the Pros has worked really well this year. For the first time, there is a clear difference between the two devices, and a real buying decision if you're debating which one to go for. The first thing that's going to hit you when looking at the 14 Pro is the new notch, or as Apple are calling it, and I hate myself for actually calling it this, the dynamic island. Basically, the notch at the top of the display is gone, replaced by a small pill cutout, which has been rumoured all year, with lots of people, myself included, saying that they'd have preferred to stick with the notch until Apple could remove it altogether. But in typical Apple style, they had a trick up their sleeve and have turned this hardware limitation into a breathtaking software feature. That small dark pill, which houses a huge amount of tech and so is definitely needed, now morphs and changes form depending on what you're doing, creating a beautiful little visualizer that can show all kinds of information. I'll be able to talk more about it next week when I've got a new phone to play with, but for now, check out some of the footage from the event. This could genuinely change the way that you use your iPhone 14 Pro. But the changes don't end there. The Pro models now come with an always-on display, like your Apple Watch, where the phone will be in low power mode when not in use, giving you visibility of things like the date and time, plus any home screen widgets you might have added. The new display gets even brighter this time around, and the camera system now offers 48 megapixel photos, along with a larger sensor, meaning that you can capture the kind of sharp, high-resolution images you'd usually only associate with a dedicated SLR camera. The telephoto lens on the Pro now offers both 2x optical zoom and 3x optical zoom, giving you more framing options to play around with. And running all of this is the brand new A16 Bionic chip, Apple's newest and fastest iPhone silicon. In short, the Pro iPhones this year are looking to be incredible phones, albeit with hefty price tags to go with them. So, which one should you choose? Budget should absolutely be your first consideration when choosing a new iPhone. If you can only afford a certain model, then your decision is essentially made for you, and Apple have kind of made that decision easier this year by widening the price gap, certainly in some markets. Here in the UK, for example, the iPhone 14 starts at £849, while the Pro starts at £1,099, a £250 price difference, which is pretty significant. If you can afford the Pros, and all of those Pro features sound good to you, I do think that the Pro model this year is going to be a compelling choice. It offers a lot for the money, especially when compared to the 13 Pro, which felt a bit more of an incremental update from the previous 12. So I'm happy with the iPhone 14 Pro this year. It's actually the iPhone 14, which I'm just not sure about. It's a nice phone, no doubt about it, but by holding back on technology improvements to better differentiate the Pro from the non-Pro, I think Apple have made the value proposition of the iPhone 14 Pro and last year's iPhone 13 even greater and weakened the value proposition of the 14 in the process. Compare the two side by side and they are almost identical, save for a few features which you might not care about. Crash detection, the photonic engine and action mode, and an extra GPU core. Besides that, they're the same, although the 13 is £100 cheaper on Apple's website, which means it could be even cheaper elsewhere. Are a handful of pretty minor improvements worth £100 to you? If no, then get an iPhone 13. And look, if you've been considering a mini iPhone in the past but held off, now's your opportunity because the mini phone is gone. So pick up a 13 mini at the best price that you can find. The iPhone 13 Pro has quietly been removed from Apple's website, but there will still be units out there from other retailers, and given the choice, I'd choose a 13 Pro over a regular 14 any day. So again, keep your eyes open for bargains. With the decision of which model to choose figured out, we now need to think about storage. I covered this last year in a dedicated video, but I think it's worth revisiting. You're going to have to try and establish how much space you need, as Apple do give you a pretty wide range of options to choose from, and getting the balance of space versus cost is going to be really important. For example, an iPhone 14 Pro with 128GB of space is going to set you back $999, while a 1TB model of the same phone is $500 more. That's a lot of extra coin for a phone that does exactly the same thing, just with more space to hold digital content. You ideally want to avoid the situation that I'm in, where I purchased a 256GB iPhone 13 Pro last year, yet I'm only using about 70GB of that, so just over a quarter. Essentially, I've wasted money on space I simply don't need. But at the opposite end of the scale, keep in mind that Apple don't let you upgrade space at a later date, so if you buy too little and fill it up too quickly, you're kind of stuck. Figuring out what you use your phone for is going to be a good starting point. Are you a 100 plus photos and videos a day kind of person? If yes, chances are you're going to be using up a ton of space that most other users wouldn't be using, and whilst services like iCloud will help to manage your iPhone storage, those photos and videos will add up quite quickly. Other common causes of filling up storage quickly are downloading lots of large apps, so if you use your iPhone as a gaming device, this might be applicable to you, or downloading lots of content from services like Netflix, Disney+, Apple Music, or Spotify for offline consumption. If you've not already, I definitely recommend going to Settings, then General, then iPhone Storage to see how much storage you're currently using and what that storage comprises of. There are other things to think about too. How long do you plan on keeping the phone for? I'm pretty fortunate. Because of what I do for a living, I can justify buying a new iPhone each year, but most people can't. Most people will need to keep their phone for 2-3 years, maybe longer. A few years ago, 128GB felt like a huge amount of phone storage, but now it's the smallest configuration you can buy, so it might be worth figuring out how much you think you need, then look into the next tier up if you can afford it. Doing this is more likely to future-proof your investment and give you a phone that you can rely on for a number of years, rather than just 1 or 2. Keep in mind too that iPhones with larger storage capacities do have a slightly higher resale value, which could of course help you out when you come to sell. The age-old question, do you actually need a new iPhone this year? This is tricky to answer, because the answer is going to be unique and personal to each person, but fundamentally everything we've discussed thus far might be irrelevant to you if you decide you don't need to upgrade. So let's try and break it down as best we can. I think there are a few things to consider when deciding whether or not to upgrade. Firstly, let's think about how your current phone is performing. There are 2 areas where you can get some statistics about this. The first, I've already mentioned, storage. You would head to Settings, then General, then iPhone Storage, and see how much of your current phone you're using up. There are things you can do to reduce that figure. I made a video entirely about that subject recently, which I'll link to in the description of this video, but it could also be the case that you just need more storage, and so an upgrade to the latest phone would be a sensible way to both get you a nice new phone and upgrade your storage. The other thing to look at is your battery health. Again, I've made a dedicated video about this topic too, but let's head to Settings, then Battery Health, and look at this figure here. Your battery health is essentially the maximum capacity of your battery. A figure of 95% essentially means that even with a full charge, the battery will only provide 95% of the capacity that it would have when it was new. This is normal for lithium-ion batteries. They do degrade over time. I was pretty proud to have kept this figure at 100% for about 9 months, but I've noticed it's dropped a bit in the past month or 2. I can live with 95%, that's still a good capacity, but if this figure was down at 80% or 75%, I'd be starting to feel some limitations. You could of course go to an aftermarket company and have them put a new battery in for you. That would be much cheaper than buying a brand new phone, but again, you might see this as an excuse to upgrade. The other performance related question is more anecdotal. Does the phone feel sluggish to you? Depending on how long you've had your phone, you might say no. Apple are very good at making phones that feel really nippy for years. I only got rid of my iPhone XS last September, and right up until the point where I got rid of it, it performed really, really well. My current phone, an iPhone 13 Pro, runs as fast as the day I bought it, but again, it's something for you to think about. I guess then the other question is, how much do you care about all those new features? So, lots to think about, and ultimately you've got to decide what's right for you, but hopefully this video has helped. For me, I'm going for an iPhone 14 Pro this year, but if I were on a budget, I'd be picking up the best 13 model that I could afford. I'm really not convinced on the regular 14 model this year at all. What about you? Are you upgrading? If yes, what are you considering? Drop me a comment and let's talk about it. And as ever, if you found this video useful, do please consider leaving me a like and subscribing to my channel for more content like this in the future. See you on the next video.